Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekend Rental. We are your gaming and geek culture podcast. This is episode 125. As always, I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined by Andy.
Hey.
All right, if you enjoy our podcast, head on over to geekade.com where you're going to find podcasts on video games, comics, articles, so much more. Geekade.com. What's your geek?
And
what was that? Who interrupted my plug for Stone Age Gamer?
I completely got cut out.
And not Stone Age Gamer, but like the whole thing. Stone Age Gamer, the Vest Lord, the Geekade.com. Was somebody talking over that?
They can hate you.
Andy, are you hearing anything?
Sounds like the voice sounds familiar.
God, I'm having a hard time, but were we a three-piece podcast at some point? Am I crazy?
No, definitely still a duo.
Riff, Tiff. Oh, as always, Biff.
It's too late. You said some things and made some decisions.
I had that pre-planned. I was going to see how long you'd just let it go before I would circle back, but you caught it right away. I'm impressed.
It's not
Welcome
hurtful.
back.
It's good to be back.
Technical difficulties.
So many technical difficulties.
Bad at meeting times. We're all back.
Yes.
So
my assistant definitely came through well this time.
You're not paying me, so I don't know if I qualify as your assistant.
Not yet.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're all back. Three-piece. This is an exciting episode. This is the episode where we usually spend a lot of time gushing over our favorite weekend of the year, which is, of course, the Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee. Unfortunately, well, I guess not unfortunately, as life presents different options, Andy was not able to attend this year. He had some family stuffs, which is totally understandable, but a bummer for what used to be the boys outing.
Yeah.
So it kind of turned into, I took the opportunity, knowing a bunch of people weren't going to make it, to just decide this year that I was going to bring my entire family. And then I kept pushing Biff, and he did the whole family thing too. We were both there. Downtown Milwaukee, same weekend. We text like twice and said hi for like 5 minutes. And then we failed to take a picture for the podcast Twitter. We did nothing productive, which made me a little sad. And I realized later.
I kind of missed the boys club. It made me really sad. Where
it's a lot different with the fam.
Yes. There was a lot of times I'm just kind of roaming around like, what do I do now? I'm trying to get my family excited, and they're definitely less excited than me. So, but I survived. I made our 5-minute encounter an extremely awkward one. And so it was a win.
It was a lot. It was weirdly awkward for people who hang out on a regular basis at home and then like find themselves knowing they're at the same convention and then nobody knows what to say. And then, yeah, it was weird. I'm not going to lie. But that's all right. I'll get into a story later. I ended up texting Biff. I was like, I don't know if the encounter right before you was the most weird and awkward thing or the thing where I met you, the guy who's on my podcast and we hang out. But anyway, we'll get into that. So the Midwest Gaming Classic, back in full form, occupied 3 floors of the convention center this year. The first year back in its normal spring time slot, 2 weeks later than it normally is, which meant we didn't get snow, which is crazy. Although the Midwest weather hates us this year, and it was 50 degrees for some reason, which is stupid. It should be a lot warmer. But yeah, it was kind of a return to form. I can say easily based on what I saw attendance wise. I mean, I only did Friday and Saturday. This had to have been the biggest year attendance wise. I mean, so I got there Saturday. Well, I was there Friday, got my tickets ahead of time, but when I walked in at Saturday at 9:30, when I could get in, the line just for the ticketing area, not counting what was already prepaid and people walking in with me, was around the convention center, and several people deep. That was at 9:30, and it was just wall to wall people. It was nuts. So they did the arcade on the 3rd floor this year, vendor hall on the 1st floor. Vendor hall was in a new room with carpet, which also spilled out into a hallway. Vendor hall was probably actually smaller than it normally was. They did a cool thing where they built like a tunnel through like the catering area from the vendor hall connecting to the board game area, which kind of made this really actually cohesive loop, which I think is something they've struggled to pull off in the past, which was neat. Second area turned into like a meeting area with a bunch of food vendors, really good ramen there. And then the whole like exploratory wing of like other groups, which again this year, probably because of attendance and the fact that they set it up different with the food there, was flowing with people. People were actually exploring, like things were happening. It was moving. Everywhere was busy. And the top floor being the stage again, and then the expanded history museum and arcade. So although the fact that the arcade was expanded did not continue with the trend of there being less and less arcade cabinets there every year and more pinball, which was super sad. Yeah, it was nuts. My experience, I got there early with my family on Friday. We did the whole, preview night. Had a blast, ran into our buddies over at Guys Games and Beer, played a bunch of games with the kids. They really loved it. My wife and daughter dropped off early. My son and I kept going until almost midnight. Called it off about 11:45 after playing a few more arcades. Then we got up and hit the vendor hall Saturday. My kids blew through money like crazy. Obviously the shopping and the plushies and everything like I predicted came true. My daughter loaded up on stuff. My son loaded up on stuff, did the obligatory like unload session at about 11:30. Then we came back for a little bit, played some games, and just realized like, man, it's too busy. Like that day is so hot. Saturday at like noon, like it's compared to the night before when you could walk in and like play about anything. It was just a zoo. So we cut out, did some lunch, came back, played some more games, ran into some people. Overall, I liked the show. I think they finally achieved that like cohesive, it's a big exploratory adventure thing. There's some pluses and minuses, but I thought it was really well done. I don't know if your summary close to mine, a little different, I suppose.
I thought the show was great. I really thought I felt that it was much larger than what I've experienced. And some of it had to do, things were still spread out. There were 3 floors. Normally when they split up the floors, you lose things, there's no signage. There's, some group is around the corner and nobody says anything. And there was proper signage, like signage everywhere, which was really nice. And yeah, everything just had a flow. So you found yourself going into areas that you normally wouldn't go to, or what I haven't gone to in the past. And I really enjoyed it. Yes, the vendor hall seemed a little bit small, but there was still quite a few vendors in the hallways. And so it was just packed with people. The arcade I felt was a bit smaller. There were less pinballs and less arcades than normal, which was kind of strange. And but overall I thought it was a good experience. I thought it was a good show. I thought the vendor hall was pretty decent, extremely overpriced. I was really happy with how it went.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest disappointment, and like not a detriment to me at this point, but if you're the person who goes to that thing because you're there to find retro games, the vendor hall was not in your favor this year. Not only was the floor space smaller for it, not by a great amount. I mean, there's still tons of stuff, like Biff was saying, but it is split pretty evenly, 50-50 tchotchke bullshit versus like actual video game sellers. Like it was it was not a wall of video game resellers this year. It was like you were table hopping. It was, and that's fine. It draws in a whole different crowd. But if you're the person who wants to spend all weekend perusing tables, I don't know, you'd need 2 days to do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Definitely not. And if I could take a moment just to have a PSA for all of those people that are selling at these types of shows, stop setting your stupid tables up where you have to walk in a small little hallway area of your tables and it's open on the other side. So everyone is walking through one way and also coming in through another way. And it's nut to butt everywhere. And it was
anyone in particular you're aiming that towards?
No, there was so many. And then there was also a table.
Were there? Okay.
There was a group that was set up where they basically barricaded you in. So you walk in this area and there's no way out. Yeah. You have to turn around and walk back. And it was just, I almost kissed a guy and I didn't like it. and so just set up your tables in a straight line or set it up in a U or whatever it is where you can get in and out. PSA there.
Yeah. Speaking of almost kissed a guy, that's how I text Biff. I was like, where are you at now? And he didn't say anything. So I found him on the show floor. And that was my move, was like, he was standing shoulder to shoulder with somebody else and just like grinded up on him. I'm like, excuse me. Oh. I was about to kick somebody's ass. I was like, dude, you're not that intimidating. Like, come on, it's all right. So I get to freak him out and make him uncomfortable, which is always fun. Another PSA in the vendor hall. I've watched a few videos. People out there, just take a chill pill. Don't get upset when you go to these things now after the COVID bubble came and has continued and retro prices haven't gone down. You can't be mad at people trying to maximize what these things are actually going for. Is it absurd? Should you pay it? No. But you can't be mad at these people who are doing it, who are traveling, paying booth space, setting up all weekend. Was I shocked that somebody was selling a boxed Jaguar CD for $1,500 and explained to me how that was a good deal? Sure. I can't comprehend that from what that price was 2 years ago, but I understand it. And I'm not mad at the person for it.
They're paying $4.50 a gallon of gas to get there.
Yeah. And that's what the shit goes for. And I think people forget that, like, if you're looking for pristine, in box, like sealed, that was awesome seeing the graded booth completely dead this year. Hats off to the retro community. I'll touch on that. Nobody gave a shit, which was amazing to see. But like, people forget, like, if you're going for the premium stuff, those fetch premium prices right now, but there's still deals to be had in the middle. There's still deals to be had in the lesser sought after titles. People are going to slip. There's going to be deals you can negotiate, but no one is going to sit there at a con like that and negotiate with you on like a mint rare sought after item when they've got options at every corner. So I don't know. I didn't get like the community hate. Like, it didn't.
Did you actually see people arguing?
No, but I watched a few videos following, and there was a lot of people. Some people were just really going off, and then others are like, "No, I still found deals." I'm like, "Of course, that's always the case." Like, but the extreme was more extreme this year, so people kind of went nuts on it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest bummer is like you see the pictures of everybody's pickups, and like here's what I got at MGC, and it's like a tenth of what they usually did, you know, a few years ago.
Yeah, I got 4 items. I bought a vinyl soundtrack for Metal Slug. There was a guy that had a table set up selling repro Jaguar cartridges. I bought 2 of them off of him right away. And then, it was shipped to shore. The same people I bought the vinyl from, he was selling the Star Wars Famicom cart, which I've been after forever because I always wanted to pay $5 for it. And it's been $25 every time I've seen it in the last 5 years. And I just happened to ask him. He's like, yeah, that's $5. Like, deal, man. I bought all of that within 15 minutes of each other. I looked at about 1/10 of the tables there, and I walked out happy. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, are people buying less because they've just gotten everything they needed going into this, or because prices are that bad? Like, for me, I know it's like I'm just there to experience it. And it was great to experience it with my kids and see it through their eyes. Like I think Saturday, like I had my son up when we were doing that last hurrah, and like it was packed. Like you couldn't get into anything. So I was just letting him grab pinball tables that he could find that were open. And like, you know, he just turns to me. He's like, I don't know why, but pinball's just really fun. And I was like, that's my boy. That's why we do this. So it was cool. It was cool to see that. It was a way different experience, but it was cool. I think it's going to happen every year from now on.
So was there like a standout pinball or arcade? You know, was there a Black Emperor this year?
So there was, I will say there was this Chicago gaming company that had a cluster of tables set up, and I don't remember the name of it. It was like Gunslinger or like Old West, a bounty hunter maybe. You were like basically picking off bounties. That table was phenomenal. I played that a ton, like really intuitive, like no cheap designs or like weird. Like I feel like some of those new Stern ones, like the table's just so bare, like every third shot's a whole shot and like you're just screwed. So that I think was my favorite one. I will say that my son absolutely crushed on your favorite from last year, which was that Godzilla. He got the deluxe version with the building that collapsed and everything. Dude, he went on a tear and got into a multi-ball. I swear to God, he was playing one ball for 10 minutes straight. Like I literally had to make him move off the table because somebody else wanted to play it. It was incredible. But that was the standout for me, was that Chicago Gaming Company. Biff, did you have like one that really... Black Emperor was not there, which was a super big disappointment.
Oh.
Yeah, that was definitely disappointing. I was hoping that maybe it was just in a different room with, you know, maybe it's, you know, the creator's room or something like that. And so I was kind of scouring all over. Didn't find it, which was disappointing. Stern featured a new pinball, and it was, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, was it was a banned one, I guess.
Rush?
Oh yeah, Rush. Yeah, Rush table.
Oh,
I thought it was okay.
Wasn't that great?
I don't get super excited about the Aerosmith, Rush, the Who. You know, all of those tables are kind of the same, essentially. And so I didn't get super.
Well, they keep that same like dead center.
Right. Yeah. So there wasn't anything I was overly excited about. I love. I mean, you guys know I love Bust a Move. And so there was this giant Bust a Move, like 2-player.
Yes, that was awesome.
Thing that you sit down. However, the resolution on that, once you sat down at that eye level, it looked like trash. And so I feel like they needed to move it back a little bit further. But that was something that I really liked.
I liked that.
Really? It seemed way too pixelated.
I agree with you. It was way pixelated, and it probably could have gone back further. But I loved the low tech approach of that. Like they made that they made like the same experience on the cheapest technology they could. I gotta kind of like applaud them for that. But yeah, you're right. It was a little clustered.
$17,500 for that, by the way.
Oh, okay. Maybe not that cool anymore. It's knock about I don't know, 15,000 off of that.
When I looked at the price, I was like, man, they should have just gone with an LCD screen of some sort or done something because...
at that point, they're like, do they know projectors exist?
Right, yeah.
For a lot less than this.
What I found myself playing probably the most was in Guys, Games, and Beer. We were playing Pac-Man Versus. And so my son went with me, and he was in love. Like, he never once was like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm hungry. He was living his best life at MGC, which was really fun to see. Because I've always gone home and just talked about it. And for him to experience the same things that I've experienced, he was just so excited. And I mean, he was even amped about going to Doc's Smokehouse. And he's like, yeah, these ribs are the best. And he kept on like walking around telling everyone how amazing ribs were. But I also had...
it's the turkey. He's got it close. So.
Yeah, I also had a buddy come up from Morton, which is kind of southern Illinois. And so yeah, we were playing Pac-Man Versus, which was really fun, and always, I mean, just the way they set it up there is really fun to have the projector and small screen. So I found myself playing a lot of that, but we only experienced the show on a Saturday. That was it. I didn't do Friday. I didn't do Sunday.
Yep.
And so I felt that I didn't have enough time to see everything. So I didn't find myself just sitting down playing a game, which I would like to do more of.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, move on to the next. So I was I was there the entire day. I didn't get to the vendor hall until, I don't know, 2 p.m, maybe, or after lunch at some point. And so I felt a little rushed. I think if I go next year, I'll definitely kind of be splitting up the time, whether that's Friday or Sunday or whatever. But yeah, I wish there were more of those, more arcades, more pinballs. I think just with MGC being so close to the last one in November,
right,
that they just weren't bringing things up at this time. So hopefully next year everything kind of levels out, and then
in talking with the guy who was running the arcade, he did hint at that. He said there were certain groups that didn't come back just because the turnaround time was so tight, but he expected next year to be back. But yeah, to double down on what you're saying, Biff, I would say if you're a person who's there to experience the arcades and the arcade museum, and you really want to get a chance to get hands on with all those machines, preview night is an absolute must. I mean, you're going to get in and get to experience a lot of that Saturday and Sunday, but like, let's be honest, like the arcade starts packing up sometimes at noon on Sunday. People start pulling things out, and Saturday is just so full of people. It's not worth the frustration of being up there, especially like it was hard, like coming out of the pandemic, like that is way, I mean, we were there last year, but it was not nearly to the extent of like wall to wall people, like, and everyone's just kind of got that built into them, I think, to like not be packed in a crowd. So we found ourselves just kind of like letting a lot of that go Saturday. So yeah, I highly recommend Friday for people. I will say it was great running into the guys' Games and Beer place and all those guys. I got to talk to a couple of the guys, Travis and Tom, who I haven't ran into in the last few years. I didn't get to talk to Rob, which is a bummer. So it was great catching up with those guys. I will say I did have a shit experience though. So I don't know, like granted, this is partly on me, but like I'm believe it or not, a weird introverted person, and like negative human interactions kind of like bum me out for a long time. And I'm not going to name the name of the YouTuber, but it was someone I collaborated with because they sent me a request to do so. Then when I was tweeting that I was going to MGC, specifically replied and said, "Hey, hope I can run into you this year." And then Saturday afternoon at like, I don't know, 3, 4, I came across this person and I said, "Hey," name who I won't say. And they turned around and I was like, introduced myself because I don't know if I've actually spoken to them in person before. And just got the biggest fuck you, why are you talking to me response to that. And then I was just like making idle chit chat. I'm like, I'm blah, blah, blah. And then he's like shoulder shrug. I'm like, what'd you pick up down the vendor hall? And he does like this weird, like lean back and like looks at me and like, it was such fucking bullshit. And then like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I was like, either this person knows who I am and they're still that big of a dick, or they don't. And I'm just some random fan of theirs from YouTube and they were that big of a dick. And I was just like, I can't understand that response. Like we've been doing content, and like when I was doing YouTube content in full force, like I was never a big fucking player in the scene, but if I had anyone come up to me, the fact that anyone would come up and know who the hell I was at all, take the time to come up to me, was just like the most cool. Every interaction should be met either with, whether it's in person, especially, or comments online, should be met with graciousness and kindness. And like, I could not wrap my head around, and it fucking bummed me out. I literally was like off the rest of the day. And then like following that is when I had like the weird, like for whatever reason, awkward conversation with Biffs. And I was just like, man, like, I'm just really off like shit today. But like, people, if you're one of those people and like you do this kind of stuff, and this is not a big person, this is a person who is like under 2,000 subs, like arguably internet-tainer material. It was just so pathetic. Just don't do that. Like, be nice to people. Like, I'm pissed at myself for like going out of my way to talk to this person. I probably wouldn't have had they not like made the comment, and I could have just kept on my way with my family. And fuck, there's like 10 other people that I would have loved to have ran into at that show that would have been happy to talk to me and catch up that I unfortunately did not get to meet. Like people like Jason, TJ Kitsune, those people. And like, I don't know, it sucked. It threw me off. Part of that's my fault, I admit. But like, if you're a person out there who's doing this kind of stuff, just maybe don't be a shithead.
And I want to add to this for a second, because I didn't think our interaction was that bad. It was a little weird, but it wasn't that bad. And I think
it was a little weird considering we're like borderline adult best friend. Like, I mean, we're not like grade school BFFs, but I would say like in the realm of like people who became friends in adulthood with children who hang out and talk on a normal basis. It was a weird like 5-minute interaction we had.
Yeah, I think. Well, I didn't think it was that bad.
It wasn't anyone's fault. It just felt awkward.
I think there was just
for some reason.
One, there's a lot of people, and I already get a little uncomfortable in large groups. So do you.
Sure.
So we have
you
that.
You did threaten to beat me up.
I have my son and a friend. You have your family and kids, and so it's just kind of a weird interaction overall. But I think this unnamed YouTuber.
Completely threw me off.
Just got in your head. But
he almost ruined our friendship. How dare this person?
Let's go get him. But on top of that, I'm going to name this person by name.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, Ben Heck.
Your best friend.
My friend Ben Heck. So I even my wife, like my entire family knows who Ben Heck is. I've made him to be this like massive nemesis, which is so awesome.
He's the unicorn.
And so going into this event, and to play back, I'm sure most of you guys remember this story, those that are listening, but previous MGC, I went up to Ben Heck. I bought some arcade plans from him. He had no clue what I was talking about when I approached him, and he got so pissed. And he was like, I'm really hungry. I need to go. And I was like, no. And I don't know why I was obsessing about these plans. I was just like, hey, it really helped me out. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Leave me alone. And I mean, he didn't say leave me alone to the point of a stalker, but you could just tell like he was pissed and irritated to have someone talk to him that isn't one of his friends. And so I have made it my mission to take a picture with Ben Heck, but Ben Heck doesn't know I'm in the picture.
Right. Taking a picture with Ben Heck is not the term I would use. Like borderline stalking / like photo bombing, somewhere in between, a gray area between those two things.
So I have a plan.
Which your photo this year was super good, by the way.
So I set it out with my family. I was like, if we find Ben Heck, we got to find a way to stop him, but not talk to him, and then hurry up and take a picture of me. And every time I saw him, he was just walking, and I was like, I can't get into a position where this is going to look funny. So towards the end on Saturday, he was doing a panel, and it was kind of a weird location. It was kind of out in the hallway in the open area. So there was people all over. And so I worked my way all the way behind the table where he's speaking. And I'm standing kind of just in the corner with the picture. I got a couple of pictures. One I was posing and one I was stretching. And I was doing like the awkward, like low hip thrust stretch.
With the direct stare into the lens of the camera, which kind of makes that photo, I will say.
So I have now determined that every year this has to happen, and my goal, hopefully Ben Heck doesn't listen to this show. My goal with this is years down the road, I'm going to tag him all of these photos, like just years, years of
cease and desist.
Messing with Ben Heck. And so that was a highlight of mine, to catch the photo. And my son was so excited that we actually got it done. So I'm hoping that we can just continue the tradition.
When you sent me that photo, I was like, there's something wrong with you, but it's pretty funny. I will say.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. Like, if you're a person out there, especially at these things where somebody comes up, just like, dude, be a decent person. Like, I love
some of those
that,
people,
like,
they're
you
paying
getting
to be
blown
there.
off. Yeah, I love that you being blown off by Ben Heck has turned into like this amazing, like, ongoing vendetta, though. I will say I did have a slight redemption arc. So, like, we came back, my son and I, at the end of that evening, Saturday, to do like the last hour arcades, and skies opened up, torrential downpour. We had like book it across the street to our hotel. We got just soaked. And I got into the lobby and we're going up the elevator and I look over and like, oh shit, like there's Justin from Business 17. He's like one of the original pickup video people, super nice kid, way younger than I am. Always been like super cool to me. I was like, hey, how's it going? We don't really know each other. Like, we were both on YouTube. We did trades at MGC one year. He's always been super gracious, like offers me to like come hang out with him and his friends, play some games. I've never done it because, you know, again, I'm weird. I'm there with my own friends too. I don't want to crash somebody's party. But yeah, it was just like super nice. Like, person I wouldn't normally talk to, and was like, hey, thanks for the hotel recommendation. I ended up recommending that hotel the last year. And like, that's how the community should be, right? Like, no egos, just like nice chit chat. You get to see these people once a year, have a nice little conversation. And like, I don't know. So that kind of like brought me back to like, okay, I'm not a human pile of trash. So that was a nice like final experience on the end of my stay. So not that Justin listens to this, but Business 17's his YouTube. He doesn't really upload anymore. I mean, he started like, God, 12 years ago, probably. So, but he always finds killer deals. So yes, if you want to watch a YouTuber who's not a dick and also goes to MGC, there's that guy.
So I was in
I need a nemesis now.
I could come up with some more for you if you're interested.
Yeah.
I was in the creator hall area and I was trying out a new NES game. And I was talking with the guy who did the music, and he's like, hey, you really got to check this out. And so I was sitting, he was very engaging and just like, oh, yeah, that's, you know, we have a couple things in common, you know, music, video games, and that kind of really sparked conversations. But I found how fast I can turn into trash because I'm playing this game. We're talking. Metal Jesus walks in and like strolls right next to me, and the guy just like whipped the controller out of my hand, and he's like, you should try this game, it's so good. And I was like,
wow,
see you later. And so Metal Jesus was there. I was like, hey, I enjoyed the show. And he was like, yeah, cool, so tell me about this game. And I was like, all right, peace out.
Wow, what a douche. I was kind of kicking myself, not that I care about talking to Metal Jesus, but like, God, I'm almost ashamed to admit this in the podcast, but they pressed his theme song to vinyl, and I'm one of the like probably 5 idiots who bought it. And I totally should have brought that and had him sign it, because I mean, why not? But he was eating at
say hi to
Doc's.
you then.
Yeah, him. So every time I went to Doc's, the first time I went to Doc's, it was him, Adam Korolek, John Riggs, a few other people all sitting there. And Adam Korolek kept like locking eyes with me across Doc's. So I'm pretty sure he knows who the Vidge Gamer is. Big fan, I'm pretty sure. Adam Korolek was too shy to say anything. But then the next day when I was back, it was John Riggs, Metal Jesus, and like a few other people too. So it was really weird. But yeah, I didn't go up and approach. I'm past the point of like geeking out about these like YouTube people, right? Like, it was kind of interesting or exciting the first couple times I went to cons, but Like, I think being someone who, not that I'm comparing myself to any one of those people, but if you're a content creator, you realize that all those people are also just middle-aged assholes in their basement. Sure, they've got a little more following than we have, but like, they're just schlubs. Like, I don't know. Is it worth going up and saying like, "Hey, I love your shit"? I don't know. I wouldn't expect someone to do that for me. So there's that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess the difference is they're paid to be there for that, you know?
Are they? Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, they are for sure.
And I need to put a disclaimer that Metal Jesus was not a jerk at all. Like, super nice guy.
You made him sound like a jerk. Are you sure?
No, the guy that was showing me the game was the guy that like whipped the controller out and was like, try that. Yeah. So yeah. I felt a little less than, but you know, that's whatever. Right. I didn't get paid to be at the show, so I had to pay to be at the show.
I think it sounds like we need to do a driveway night, and I'll get my GameCube hooked up with the projector and have our boys over and do the 4-player Pac-Man because I got the setup.
That'd be awesome.
Weather's turning around. We'll have to do it. Andy, you can come too. Bring us on as well. You get to pick. Only one.
You do have like 40 of them, so
I'll maybe bring my youngest to distract you so I can win.
I like it. I will say, sad note to the end of my MGC thing. Like, we took our time coming home. We live in an area of the Midwest that is basically like the equivalent of Earth's sponge on an old glacial lake. So it's just feet and feet of just rich, luscious topsoil that just holds tons of water. And I live about a mile from, as a bird flies, from the biggest river in the area. And we've been getting lots of rain for some reason this spring. So when I finally made it back home Monday, after all this driving, I slightly touched on this with Biff, but there's a tragic story about how liquor stores close at 6 on Sunday in Minneapolis. So Papa didn't get to relax that night. So I was happy. It was the afternoon of Monday. I was getting my beer finally. I was sitting down on the couch and I hear my wife yell from the basement, and immediately I knew what was up. And sure enough, we'd gotten a shit ton of rain. It wasn't just us. It's a lot of people in our community, but it had seeped into my game room, which I built for the express purpose of being far enough off the floor so that nothing would get damaged unless I got many, many inches of water. But when it so happened that I just acquired a bunch of stuff from Biff that was all original boxed classic NES things, along with some of my collectibles, some unopened freaking Labos. And yeah, that all got wet. It all got wet. Got real pissed.
This breaks my heart. I had the feels after you told me that. I was like, oh man, I can't imagine that.
I could feel like with the Labos. Yeah, like I was just so exhausted. And like the Labos, whatever. I'm an idiot. I probably never would have put them together anyway. That NES box. And then the only thing I can say is the redemption arc on all of this is like, the Power Glove, well, a colossal piece of shit. The box that they made for that thing is an impermeable fortress that water cannot penetrate because it sat on the floor next to every other box. But the glorious ink or whatever they put on the Power Glove box does not absorb any moisture. That one went unscathed. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of minor like rain flooding, which I'm actually dealing with again this week because we keep getting torrential downpours. So it's a minor inconvenience, but it was just crushing to me to lose some pieces that I consider very precious. And especially having got them off a friend who took good care of them. It's nice to know that I effed him up in about 9 months.
And screwed our relationship up. That's fine.
Can I get a refund?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Send them on back. I'll pay pennies on the dollar.
All right. Yeah.
I do want to see, like, I would love to see a video of somebody opening up the Labo, trying to do the Labo with wet cardboard. That would be pretty good.
Just like molding it. Yeah.
Might be an improvement.
Yeah, I was looking at that because after I threw out the cardboard, because you keep the cartridge, obviously. I was like, what value does this cartridge hold at this point? Like, this is completely worthless. Yeah. It's a weird setup.
Oh man, that's heartbreaking. I would just be sick to my stomach.
The thing is like it's on me for the most part because, like I said, I have things set up right. I had everything else in plastic bins. I just happened to be lazy and have a couple boxes in an area that typically, and I will say typically in the sense that like I've lived in this house 14 years. It's been 8 years since I've had water in this area of the basement ever. And it's never gotten as bad as it has in this room ever. It's been like a small 4-inch corner. It worked its way feet out. So it was all preventable. So I was kind of kicking myself, but in the grand scheme of things, as far as the total loss, I can deal with it. It was more just the fact that like 4 days of travel with your entire family, like everyone out there who's in that situation knows how burnt out you are. And like, I just wanted to relax, but it wasn't meant to be. I did take Tuesday off though. So I did get to relax a little then, which was nice, and finally have my beers in peace. So it was good. Andy, you should probably talk. We're 40 minutes into this episode. What happened with you while we were at MGC and doing all sorts of stuff?
Nothing really exciting. I haven't really done too much overall the last couple of weeks, but so our last update, we were talking about how we started up ARK Survival Evolved or whatever, the dinosaur game. And we were having a good time with it, had some complaints about it, and figured we'd keep going. Well, the last 2 weeks I've kept going, and those complaints have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and have not solved the problem at all. And yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm checked out of that game now.
We'll put you over the edge.
2 days ago, I was riding my Raptor way across the other side of the island. No, it's a whole bigger Raptor that I had captured, and brought them all over to this other side, trying to get to the beach. Well, the beach is way off the end of a cliff, so I'm like, oh great, I don't know how I'm going to get down there. So I'm kind of like looking down or whatever, and then the server lagged.
Oh no.
And then the server caught up, and I was flying off the cliff to my death, where both my dinosaur and me were dead. And that's where I was like, okay, that game has just, there's been many times where you spend an hour or two in there, and oftentimes you've gone in the hole resource wise. Like, you have not made an improvement to your base. You've killed off something that was, whatever. But
what do you think like the tipping point is? Like, what are we doing wrong? Is it manpower? Is it having enough people in your party all playing consistently at the same time that like tips that scale, you think?
It's gotta be, you have to have like a troop of people, I'm sure, because even like the more advanced stuff, it's like you need this to make cementing paste, and then you need cementing paste to make polymer, and then you need 50 of cementing paste and 50s. It's just
you need constant
insane amount of stuff,
right? And like the adjustment post the holiday grind it continued on. It was just slow and terrible.
And I mean it doesn't help the first half hour you play. It's like, well, I got to get meat and berries for everybody, and then I got to get some metal to upgrade my suit because it busted here and there. And the resource grind in that is just, it's too much.
I kind of felt like it was maybe going that direction because like the last time I was on with you, and it's just like I jumped on for a 2.5 hour stint, and all I managed to do was fix the holes in the wall, get enough meat for everybody, come up like 2 stacks of wood better than we left off, and then it's midnight. And what the hell did I accomplish? The answer was nothing. Well, I think I helped you with a couple. Oh, I almost killed your bird. Yeah, that was the other thing I almost accomplished. That was fun.
Yeah, I definitely killed that. I killed that bird later on. So don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to move on to a new game.
Yeah.
That the broke ass version that hasn't been updated since 2015 of 7 Days to Die is available for us all to play on the console, which it's still not a horrible version of 7 Days to Die. So if you guys are up for some more survival, I think we can pull that one off.
Yeah. I did have one crazy experience where I was building. So they have these like those feathered bird guys with the huge claws that just tear you to shreds every time. I was trying to catch one of those. I built a huge trap to catch one. And nothing was happening because it was over there. I was going to, wait for a little while, but couldn't quite pull it off. Anyway, I came back like a half hour later to go get some berries or wood over there. And there was a T-Rex just in the trap.
What?
Yeah. It was just like, couldn't move, stuck in there. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this. I was about ready to log off. So I guess I'm going to do this. And I think it took like 100 and some trank arrows to take it down. And then I had to feed it meat for about 3 hours straight.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was where I'm like, okay, this is going to be totally worth it after this. It was like 2 a.m. Finally got it. And then I'm like, okay, no big deal. It's just a T-Rex. It's slow as hell. He gets too tired all the time. Yeah. Everything in that game is just like so much time into it and not enough reward.
That is sickening.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
And that's my issue. I mean, I haven't put a lot of time into it. I just did it a couple times with you guys. I just can't get into those games.
I safely have your corpse crumpled up on a pile on a bed. So
I appreciate that. I honestly, I just can't get into those games where I'm a guy that needs objectives. I need...
Get the meat.
Yeah, I need a direction. And so, that's kind of what I was going to say tonight is with new gen gaming, I think I'm struggling now where I kind of looked at what's on Game Pass. There's a lot of indie stuff or indie looking stuff. And I just need a good suggestion for like, what game should I be jumping into? You guys know what kind of games I like. Don't send me down the ARK road or Minecraft road. I need a good suggestion before I rip my Xbox out of the wall.
Andy's solution and play Tunic.
Yeah,
turn my kid
like
onto that a little bit. I think you'd like it.
Okay.
I think as a group we should all start 7 Days to Die. Granted, the broken version, but I think we should do it. And I'll give you a role.
It's the same concept, right?
No. Well, yeah, it's not as brutal as ARK, and we'll all choose what we're going to spec into. So it will be important where you put your resource points to the future success of us as a group. I'll be the farmer. You can be like the concrete guy. Andy can be the tech dude.
The
it becomes important, trust me. Concrete's important. But I think you'd like Tunic after watching my kid play a bit of it. The art style is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
No. I'm to the point where I'm considering jumping back into Red Dead or Breath of the Wild. So I need something new.
Too.
I might buy the new Horizon just to play something new, AAA-ish.
Yeah, nice. Don't go crazy.
I just want to play something really good.
I mean, there's a lot of games you haven't played from like the PS4 generation, so
right.
You can always go back into that.
Good.
Yeah, it's I was gonna say it's interesting, speaking of like dilemmas with Game Pass and like games we've been playing on Game Pass. I just wanted to take a moment. We don't need to dwell on it too much because it's a thing that's been out there forever, but like I have to like kind of go hats off to Microsoft with xCloud and how well that just functions overall. So my kids have been wanting laptops forever. Like I'm not giving children full-fledged laptops. it's important that they're going to need to know like a computer-ish interface, which actually maybe it's not. I don't know what things will look like by the time they're out of the house. But at least knowing how to use a keyboard is probably going to be a valuable skill for the foreseeable future. So we bought them Chromebooks for a holiday not that long ago. Got them each like just cheap budget, like several years, like been on the market, $99 Chromebooks. Chromebooks are not supported, nor is the version of Google Chrome that they run. And the devices are not supported. And xCloud, once you pair a controller to it, works fucking flawlessly. My son has basically turned his Chromebook into his Xbox machine. He's playing everything. He's playing ARK. He's playing Halo. He's playing Fortnite. He's playing Tunic. He's playing whatever the hell. I turn around, he's playing something else. And it all just works on this cheap budget thing. So it's like, it's kind of amazing that you could spend $50 on a controller, $100 on or less on an Android or a Chrome device and have a pretty good experience on current gen games. I mean, and there's certainly some latency issues, certainly some stuttering, but for all intents and purposes, and something it clearly warns you every time you boot up a game that it's not supposed to run, it works real good. I'm impressed.
Yeah. You know, for what I have pretty crappy internet compared to most places. And there's a lot of like screen tearing sometimes when you get into it, but it never seems like it drops an input. It's still running the game. It's just not rendering the screen as well as it could to me sometimes. But I mean, it's doing the important part first. So
yeah, for sure.
You're never really missing. I mean, it's not like it's unplayable in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It's like it prioritizes like visual abnormalities over like input lag, which is nuts.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great system. I mean, I'm blown away that like it's still in a beta mode because they could definitely be charging money for it as well as it works in this incarnation.
Keep forgetting to install that on the Atari. I want to see how that runs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I still have to get mine up and running. I did like too, well, since we're talking about xCloud, I loved how they worked with Epic to finally get Fortnite back on iOS through xCloud. So take that, Apple. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's coming to Samsung TVs next year, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And I know we were talking about like there was going to be like an Xbox line of televisions too, right?
Oh yeah.
Which I mean, I think is fine, but I don't know why they don't partner with more smart TV things. Like why aren't they getting into bed with like Roku to have a designated app? Because there's no reason it couldn't work.
Yeah.
It's just such, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously we come from like the collecting scene and a lot of people would think we're speaking blasphemy, but like, I don't know. It's the way the industry is going. Like, don't fight it. Like, embrace it because it's pretty convenient and awesome. So if you're really going to buy the game, buy it, put it on the shelf and never open it, but it's going to be there to play with one click. And speaking of, I'm curious where this conversation is going to go. From Biff's notes, collecting reignited.
Oh yeah,
from the guy who just sold off everything with friends begging and pleading him not to.
No, I'm
what,
fine.
What
with,
is reignited?
with
What are you doing?
No, I'm
doing?
excited. I'm excited about. I don't know. I feel like I've had enough time away from retro games and the collecting scene and hunting scene and MGC wasn't super great for finding things, but it got me excited to go, check out some thrift stores, see if there's, anything. And kind of going back to the basics of just collecting the things that I love. And I feel like I don't know. I'm just kind of hunting and seeing what's out there and trying to find deals. And not that I'm trying to fill out anything, just looking for unusual things or things that mean something to me. I think it's really it really confuses Ryan with some of the things that I've picked up. You know, I've picked up a couple of like boxed games, and yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. I'm not a box collector.
You said, one, you're not a box collector. Two, you sold off your NES collection. Yeah. So explain to me what happened there.
No, I have my NES collection whittled to what I want.
It's in a sad sorry state though. Like, you had a fantastic collection.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just trying
to get him to like get upset, but it didn't work.
No, I don't get upset.
No, that's good.
No, I just
you're excited for it again.
Even some of those, like, I don't know, some of the boxed NES stuff, the stuff that I picked up wasn't anything special. Like, they're pretty crappy games, but I don't know, picking up the box and opening it up and looking at the manual, and I just forgot like some of those like feels, like the Christmas feels of Operation Wolf, or the Christmas feels of, you know, the Rocketeer I picked up, which was really interesting, and pulled out the manual, and that manual looks way different than, you know, really any other NES game, because all the paper is gold. And so that was something like, normally you'll see the cover, a color, and then you open it up, it's black and white. And so, yeah, there's just having, you know, some of those things. I was like, oh yeah, I totally remember that as a kid. And so, yeah, I just kind of picked up a few things. So I'm kind of excited to just, I don't know, get back at it a little bit. So I think I've let too much in to my collection and like lost focus. And I was like, there's just way too much. I think for someone who has obsessive compulsiveness, it's just too much to take in. And so just kind of refocusing on basics.
This is how it all starts, folks. Slippery slope.
No, I'm not going back where I was.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Well, that's good. Glad you're pumped. I haven't come full circle on that yet. I'm still like, I kind of took more away from MGC as like, I'm glad I've stepped away from a lot of it. And like, I like that this can be my one big thing a year where I'm like, I get to ingest this all again and like view it through like my friends and family's eyes. But my love for all of it's still there. I just still haven't picked up the drive to go like, I haven't turned down the road for a random garage sale sign yet this year, which feels weird. I did, for whatever reason, look at Craigslist though, like a week ago. What happened to Craigslist?
Oh man,
it was like dead. It was like two things, and they weren't even like local. It was that thing's that's gone. So, it's unfortunate, but
yeah. I kind of had that same thing where like garage sale season for whatever reason is really late. I mean, because of the weather, I guess, but it seems like it's been a month late this year. Usually there's quite a few, you know, in April, but that just didn't happen this year. So I went this last weekend, hit about 20, 25 sales, and I think I saw one Wii U-Draw game.
Wow.
The entire time. So
please tell me about that gem.
No. I let that one sit there.
Pictionary?
I didn't even look that hard.
Okay.
I'm guessing it probably was Pictionary or something like that. But yeah, it's one of that part is like you kind of get the excitement, and then you at the end of the day you're like, oh no, this isn't the way it is anymore. You know, it's just not going to happen like that.
Yeah. I saw somebody post on Twitter today. They're like, when somebody tells you that thrift store hunting's dead in 2022, you tell them to talk to me. I'm like, then he showed his haul, and it was great stuff. It was like somebody sold all their PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 JRPGs. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But like, you're the one dude who's going to find that this year. Like, we were all doing that on a semi-regular basis 7 years ago. Like, the deals are out there, but the amount of disappointment to the return, like, especially if you were there for like when it was good and before people like somehow learned that every video game is infinitely valuable forever. thanks to the pandemic.
Which hasn't been proven wrong. Yeah.
No, that's true. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably get out there and do some sales, but I'm still not all amped. I still need my problem is, well, right now my game room's in disarray for previously stated reasons, but like it needs to be all rearranged. So I'm kind of like holding off on doing much more collecting until I can figure out what's staying in the room on display and what's going into boxes and what's just going realistically. So it's weird times. Weird times. Speaking of weird times, another YouTuber made a movie. The Game Chasers. Remember those guys when they used to make videos? Yeah, so I was a huge fan of Game Chasers. Well, everybody is. Like they're good. It's a good pickup series. Again, they're one of the first. I think the Game Hunters. No, the Game.
Retro Hunters?
Retro, yes, because I always get the Game Hunters mixed up because it's another like COE and Leaf. But yes, Retro Hunters, they were the first in that format. Game Chasers were like 3 months after. I think they both started independently of each other. And just anyway, it's a duo. They go hunting for video games. They've been working on a movie for like 4 or 5 years. It was crowdfunded. And I don't know what happened a while back. Like they just announced that like it was finally done production, and then due to contracts with the streaming platform they were gonna have to put it on, they were no longer gonna be able to like sell. You wouldn't be able to buy it for a given amount of time. So they're like, but there's a 2-week window. You can still get in on the backer Kickstarter Indiegogo thing and like buy the Blu-ray. So I was like, screw it. Like, I like these guys enough. I'll throw $30 at it, like before I forget about it. And Blu-ray hasn't shown up yet, but last week they got digital codes out to those people, which is on Vimeo, which holy shit, is that a crappy platform to try to create an account for? But anyway, I finally got it to work. I watched this Game Chasers movie. It's the adventures, which I love all the nods to like 80s and 90s pop culture. So it's like the adventures in game chasing, just like the adventures in babysitting. And there's all sorts of references to like the Ghostbusters, the Goonies, like all that kind of stuff. And I will say, really pleasantly surprised. This was like the movie. Like I think when people gave AVGN money to make his movie, which I was one of those people, backed him, they thought like at worst this thing will be this and it'll still be entertaining. And then he gave us all an abortion in a box that was unwatchable and kind of ruined his career, at least to some extent. But Game Chasers, the movie, is really good. Like it's not like it's a B movie. It knows what it is, right? It's not like a 10 out of 10, but it's certainly like an 8 out of 10, I'd say. It's just funny start to finish. Lots of cameos. They got the dude from GameSack in there, like a weird like stuttering character who works at like a diner, which is hilarious. There's some other cameos. Game Dave is the supervillain, which Game Dave does exceptionally well because his character just fits that. And then you got OK Chief and 8-Bit Eric is like the comic relief duo, and they're like they're ghost facer, like wannabe people with like a really busted ass like Ecto 1. So I don't know. I will say like it kind of loses itself a little bit in the end, and goes maybe a little longer than it needs to. But all in all, I actually laughed at that thing start to finish. And the production value on all of it was really pretty good. So I highly recommend, like, if you haven't backed this thing once it's available, like definitely check it out. Like you'd be pleasantly surprised, especially if you're an 80s kid.
I could see how that would work better because it's different than what their episodes are. It's an actual.
Yeah.
Whereas AVGN was just like it's just a giant episode of his.
But he even like lost sight of what his character is, what his show was, and what made it entertaining. Like he just got so far off the mark. He almost delved into like, I want to make it like an homage to the things that he loves, which is like kaiju movies and like, puppeteering, and it just didn't work, and gore, like trauma stuff. So it all just fell apart. And here it was like at least a cohesive narrative. It was almost along the narrative wise, I'd say it was almost along the lines of like 8-Bit Christmas, like that sort of vibe. Like, it sticks. It's, where 8-Bit Christmas mirrored A Christmas Story, this mirrored more closely to like, the Goonies or that sort of thing. And it's a better movie for it. And I would say most of the people acted exceptionally well. Jay was a little not as great, but still good. Okay, Chief was a little rough, but 8-Bit Eric was like maybe like the most natural in that between him and Billy. So
that's probably his like professional wrestling background.
Yeah, for sure.
Used to, acting in front of crowds.
Yeah. Yeah, and Wood was in it. He had a cameo. There's a bunch of cameos, but I'll have to have you guys over. We'll do like a backyard screening sometime. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I liked it. I really was
Ben
surprised.
Heck in it?
Did
he have a
I'd
cameo?
have to check. He might have. Yeah. Might have.
Yeah. It was an opportunity to be in another photo.
Yeah, it was an infinitely better movie than it had any right to be. So I'd say it was a win for them. I mean, whether it was financially positive for them would be tough to say, because it looks like they spent a good amount of money on production. So
well, that's cool. I mean, you wouldn't think that something like that could be successful, good. Right. Where people are just,
it's like Billy has like the video editing background, but like that's way different than like somebody doing like full on production.
Right. Those type of things, you just think that, oh, we're big enough to make our own movie now, where it's like, well, you got to sit back and think, can we do this,
Yeah. Yeah. And, I really do think a lot of the community was probably a little bit skeptical after the whole AVGN thing and like that final end product. Like there were probably people who were like, nah, this is not going to work out. Not to like completely dunk on AVGN. His work on YouTube is great, but that full motion picture he put together was pretty abysmal. You guys want to come over and watch that?
Yes.
We'll do a double feature. The awful one first, and we'll take a naps, and then we'll watch the good one second.
Don't you still want to get your kids to watch Napoleon Dynamite?
That's a good one.
My wife still hasn't seen it yet, so.
Ever in her life?
No.
Oh, that's still a problem. Yeah. I made my kid watch UHF the other weekend, and he liked that, so I felt like I was doing pretty good. And then I annoyed my coworkers for a week with UHF memes and quotes that nobody understands but me, so. Apparently, when you point your finger at people at work and just yell "stupid," they think it's an insult. They don't understand that you're quoting UHF. I don't know. HR had a problem with that. It was weird. Oh man. Well, anything else going on, fellas?
Not a thing for me.
Yeah. I think I'm tapped this go around too. Still trying to calm down from MGC and the flooding in my basement.
Say flooding would be probably the biggest stressor.
I'm not worried. It's just 2 more days of thunderstorms ahead. I'm fine.
My gosh.
What could possibly go wrong?
Man.
The carpet, the worst is if it's over. The carpet's already pulled back. The fans are going. The dehumidifiers are running. Just going to be on my knees with the shop vac for a few more hours. Everybody loves that. And then I'll get to the water. It satisfies and it elongates. It serves 2 purposes. Okay, let's Biff.
Ryan,
what do you do, bud?
I don't know.
Man, he's struggling.
You were-
That's
oh,
No, I'm
pretty
just
hot.
trying to make it as awkward as I can. Yeah, I forgot my role here and what I do. It's been so long, but well, friends, we appreciate you listening to this show and our MGC trip and all of those things. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media, on Twitter, Facebook, all those kind of places. And then you can catch all things Weekend Rental at weekendpodcast.com. And always, friends, be kind. Rewind.
Ben Heck.
Said it wrong. Ben Heck.
Ben Hell.
Ooh.